Hello everybody, Bruce here with a walkthrough of Lab 9. Now, this video will serve as the instructions for Lab number 9, and prior to you watching this video, hopefully you're in week 7. In fact, you probably are because you're watching this video, and you need to watch the Lab 9 preview video that's listed here under the videos in Unit 7. Also, if you want to use my solution for Lab 8, which this particular Lab 9 is going to build off of, you can use mine, right? I didn't give you the MySQLi Connect here because you have that on your machine. You don't need me to give you that. You can use yours to build Lab 9 off of, as the concepts are what are going to be key here. Not so much follow exactly what I do, but I will do my best to explain to you what's going on. And again, you need to watch this video, and before you even go to watch this video in full, you need to watch that. Now, this video that you're watching now, you're going to have to hit stop and rewind and pause and all that kind of stuff a lot, because I'm going to be covering a lot of ground here. But you should know what I'm talking about. The only thing here that may be new to you is the SQL command to delete data, okay, from a table. So I'm going to zoom over here into my version of the code. This code, by the way, let me just bring it up right here. Lab 9 Bruce. Lab 9 Bruce. There it is. Okay. And if you remember from the prior video, right, this column here that says actions is something we need to code for. In fact, when I click on delete here, right, it removes the record, and it says here record has been deleted. So what I want to do is show you that when I hover over, okay, this action here, this link, look down to the lower left hand corner, and I can't move my mouse there. I'll put an arrow in post-production so you can see it, but look down and you can see that there are two parameters, right? The first being one called action equals delete, and then ID equals, and then a number. We need to be able to take those, right, and be able to do something depending upon what the values are there. Now, if I move to the next record, you'll see that the action is still the same, but the ID of the record changes. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is how I added these particular columns, right? This column and these actions into the page here. Okay, that's the key, right? And when I click on delete, right, you can see the URL up here, right, up in the address bar, has those things. And our page, right, needs to know how to deal with these. And this is happening via get, right? Because when I'm not posting anything now, I'm not doing anything up here in this section here that most of you, I think, did with a post. Here I'm using get. Okay, so when I click it, right, it does something. So let me go look at my code, and let me step through the code here. This is just some embedded CSS. I just do it so I can show you different things without having to go back and forth between some files. I have on line 47, 48 the include for my connection to the database. Okay, on line 50 here, I have a link that points to this page. That's what this $server PHP self means. It means the name and path of this page. And below here, this is where on line 52 through 58, and then 60 and 65, and then 66 through 72. What I'm doing here, right, this is from Lab 8, and this is, I'm using this data here to set up my sticky selects. Okay, so if I go back to here, you'll notice that if I choose, say, I don't know, 8, and I click on sort, right, notice how it sticks on 8. And notice here, if I change this to last name and I click on sort, it stays on last name. So I think at this time in the class, you should understand here that what I'm doing is I'm saying if, in fact, there is something in the post called sort by field, right? Then I'm going to grab that value and assign it to a variable. And if it's not, I'm going to make it blank. So I then use this particular data in my form. I'm going to go down here for a second, way down here, right? And this is where I have logic. And don't mind the wrapping here. Don't hit enter at the end of your lines. I just made the text larger, okay? So here I have some logic when it goes to display the selected attribute that says if sort by field equals, first name, then that's the selected value. Same with last name, student ID. So again, this was covered in the sticky selects video from a few weeks ago. I believe it was week 3. So there should be nothing new there. Okay. I don't know if I did put that in my week 8 solution, lab 9 solution, lab 8 solution, but if not, I put it here because maybe I forgot to. I don't remember. So that's for the 3 fields for sorting and the limit, the number, the numeric value. Now, here's where I handle getting the values, if there are any in the URL, for ID and for action. Okay? So again, if they're set, and that means they're there, I go and grab the value and assign it to a variable $ID for the ID of the record that needs to be deleted from the students table, and then action, because in the future we're going to be able to create, update, and now we're going to delete, right, things. So what this is going to do is going to read the word delete as the action from the URL, right? So if I go back to that page, right, and I click on one of these things here, right, you can see it up here. Action equals delete and the ID as that number. Okay, so now that I grabbed the ID and the action, okay, I need to take some action or do something. So on line 93, I say if the action is set and the ID is set, that means that those variables are set. Okay, so if they're both there, right, because action equals deleted, so that's set, and ID is a number. If they're both set, then I have a switch here that says, hey, take that action, which happens to be delete, and perform a switch on it. In this case, I go here and I say I need to switch where the case is delete. I left down here on line 187, I left no additional cases here for the switch case, because I'll be able to do create and update later. Reading is what we did with lab 8, just so you know. So here I say to myself, I say to the code, or I tell the code, on line 97 I say delete from, okay? Instead of select, star from, I'm saying delete from students, okay? That's the syntax, where the student ID equals $ID, which I set here above, okay? And limit it to 1. That means limit the number of records that could possibly be deleted to 1. Has nothing to do with the dropdown at this point. I'm just saying when you go to execute this SQL, make sure you're only deleting one thing, okay? Because you can accidentally delete more depending upon how you structured this particular SQL statement. The next thing, and again, don't mind this thing floating out here. It's because of the word, the word wrapping. See right there, see? Okay, I'll keep it like this. So the next thing we're going to do on line 98 is we're going to query the database with that SQL, and we're going to get a result back. So what I'm saying here is I'm saying if we have a result, right, and we get back something new for you, the number of affected rows. That's what you get when you perform a delete. You're going to get a row that's been affected by the particular database operation that you performed. And I'm checking to make sure it was only one, and one thing. And then I echo out to the document, record has been deleted. If this wasn't successful, I say record could not be deleted, and I put a sad face. Okay. Then I break out of the switch, and then I continue on here, right? So it's going to show all the controls for the selects here. The page is going to continue on down. Okay, again, here it's rebuilding the drop down with all of the numeric values. And then here I have something that says if server equals post. In fact, all this stuff should have been indented. I don't know what happened here. Let me just indent all this stuff right there. Boom. Okay, there it is. So now, under this if statement, let me just check here to make sure that last, right here, boink. And this is the end of the if. Okay, let me go back up. So I have this big if statement here that says, hey, if the request method is not equal to post, okay, actually that'll work, not equal to post, okay, if it's not equal to post, then I need to show the data, show all the data. And that's what this does here. And this is right from my solution in Lab 8. So let me go through it. Select star from students, right? Because we're not limiting it in any way. This is just, we're not posting, right? This is just a get. And the get happens to be when you first load the page or you're performing an operation. The next thing I'm going to do here is query the database with select star from students. And then I get the number of rows here, num_rows, the property of the result that comes back, and I echo that out. And here's where I go through the mechanics of building a table. I spit out the T8, the table row with all the table headings in it. And notice here I added a column right here. I have it highlighted called actions. That's going to be the column where we provide the user with the ability to delete or update, right? We're going to do delete or update records from that column, okay? We're not going to create records because that doesn't make sense, right? We'll give a button that says create new student record somewhere on the page, and we'll get to that in week number 8, okay? So there's actions. The next thing on line 164, we're going to loop through the result set that comes back. We're going to fetch an associative array that represents the row of data and assign it to the variable $row. There's nothing new here, okay, except on line number 167, where right in that column, and this is the actions column, I build an anchor tag with a link to the page itself. And what this does here, it allows me to call it lab9, lab9_Bruce. It doesn't matter, and it will work on your system as well if you call the file anything you want. And then I have here question mark action equals delete because that's what I want to do. And then ampersand because that's the second parameter, ID equals, and then row student ID, right? That's where I have the info for the student, right? For the student ID. Let me make this smaller so you can see it here. Okay, there we go. So now you can see here, right, this row on this line on 167. It still does wrap, okay? And I gave it a title because it's a link for accessibility, right? And there it is right there. So that builds that link, right, that everyone can click on. And I do it also if I am posting data back, right? If I need to now look at a custom sort, right? That's what I'm doing here. And I know I could have written this all as one thing under the if statement here and did some code reuse, but I really wanted to show beginners how this works. Now, this code down here that starts on 174, this is if somebody decided to sort the data. And that's where on line 175, that's where I display, because I posted, right? That's what we did when we clicked on go. We posted, the action was post. I grab all those values to show the user what kind of sorting occurred, right? And that's right here, right? Where it says, if I, let me do this, last name, and we'll show, I don't know, 7 rows, right? See, it says here sorted by last name, ascending order, limit 7. Okay, sorted by last name in ascending order. That's what I meant to say there, okay? So let's go back to the code. Next thing I do is I, perform the query. This is Lab 8 stuff. It's exactly the same, okay? And then I show the number of rows, and it's the same thing here. It's the same thing as above, right? The only difference was the SQL, right? So I probably should have refactored this code a bit, but again, sometimes it helps to show the long form version of it. And that's literally lab number 9, right? So again, let me go through that one more time. At the top here, right, this is where it really all is. We have to determine, right, if we have these parameters in the URL, the ID and the action. If they're there, then we know when we load the page we need to do something, right? Because you're not going to see these if you're posting, okay? You can't post and get at the same time. Okay, so posting is when we want to filter the data. When we want to take some action on the data, I stick the things in the URL. Now, some of you are saying, well, could you have posted those things too? Yeah, you could have, but you still need something to help the code know what it needs to do. Okay, so I always usually teach this when you take action on the data using the get parameters. Okay, so again, what I want you to do is watch this video a couple of times. There really isn't much code, right, that I added to Lab 8 to make this thing work the way it does. If you have any questions, please ask me on Slack. Get started on this as soon as you can, and because we need to move on to creating and updating data, right? So the next thing we're going to do, just so you know, in week 8 is I'm going to put a create button here, which will bring you to a form where you can insert data, and you're going to give it a first name, a last name. We'll probably have allow you to enter a student ID, email, phone, and then we'll be able to add next week as well an update link here that when you click on it will bring up that record in a form for you to edit and then reinsert the data back into the students table. All right. So if you have any questions, post them on Slack, and I encourage you to ask them in the questions channel. Don't ask me directly because I know there's a lot of students who can benefit from your question. Thanks for watching. Good luck with lab number 9.